All right, so welcome to 6.8. 6.8, we're going to solve two-step equations that have coefficients that are fractions. So we're going to solve these two steps. So it's add 10, so we subtract 10 from both sides. Negative 1 minus 10, negative 11, right? Same as negative 1 plus negative 10, equals x divided by negative 6. We're going to multiply both sides by negative 6. And so two negatives make a positive 66 equals x. Add 7 to both sides here. 4x equals 14. Divide both sides by 4. And x equals 14 fourths. Not allowed to leave it that way because that's not simplified. That does simplify to 7 halves. Or you can make it 3½ because 6 halves is 3. Or you can make it 3.5. All right. We're going to need to remember what a reciprocal is today. What's a reciprocal? A reciprocal is flip the number over. So 5/3 becomes 3/5. Now, did you write equals on your paper? Because please erase that. They are not equal. Those are reciprocals, right? It's the same number flipped over. 5 out of 3 is not the same as 3 out of 5. What is the reciprocal of 1/6? Yeah, it is 6 over 1, but we simplify that to 6. What's the reciprocal of negative 1/4? Well, you flip it over and it becomes negative 4 over 1, but we don't leave it that way. It's negative 4, right? It stays negative, right? You're not making an opposite. You're making a reciprocal. You're flipping it over. Right? So we're going to be multiplying and fractions. And when you multiply fractions, you can cancel things like that. And this 1/7 times its reciprocal is 1. A number times its reciprocal is 1. Okay, so we're going to have fractions here in our coefficients. The fraction is going to be in the coefficient. And when you have that, there is something you do in step 2. So let's see that. Step 1 will be the same as always. It's to add, you subtract. So no difference in step 1. So 16 minus 6 is 10. So how do I get rid of, right, 1/2? Well, let's remember, when a number is multiplying x, we divide, right? So typically, if it's multiplying x, we divide. So we divide by the same number. But what about fractions? We don't divide when we're dividing fractions. What do? We leave the first number the same and multiply by the reciprocal. So instead of dividing by 1/2, which is the same thing we're going to do, you multiply by the reciprocal, the number flipped over. You do it on both sides, right? So these 2's cancel out and you get 1x, also known as x. And over here you can write it as 2 or 2 over 1, doesn't matter, but x here is 20. So when you have a fraction coefficient, you get rid of it in step 2 by multiplying by the reciprocal. So let's see that here. So step 1 is the same. Step 1, there's no difference in step 1 today. 1/5 x equals 7. We have a 1/5 we need to get rid of, where the reciprocal of 1/5 is 5. You can write it as 5 or 5 over 1. Those cancel, and x equals, yes, it equals 35 over 1, but we don't leave it that way, 35. So let's keep doing that. We're going to add 8 to both sides. So 2/5 x equals 10. Now, what's the reciprocal of 2/5? Flip it over. It is 5/2, right? So we're going to multiply both sides by 5/2. Now, the 5's cancel out and the 2's cancel out, and you got x. And why that is 5/2 times 2/5. You know, you could do 10 tenths. It's 1, though. It's 1, and 1 times x is x. Now, please, yes, you can multiply across here and get 50/2, but I can tell you, as the person who wrote these problems, I have put canceling in all of them. So please look for canceling and make your life much easier. This 2 and the 10 are both divisible by 2. The 2 becomes a 1, the 10 becomes a 5, right? 10 divided by 2 is 5. So it's 5 times 5, right? 5 over 1 times 5 over 1 is 25 over 1, but that's 25, right? So look for canceling here and here in each of the problems. All right, remember, we're going to get rid of that fraction. That does not mean there won't be a fraction in the answer, so I wanted to do one of those. That's 9/2 x. 17 minus 12 is 5. We multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 9/2, which is 2/9. 2's cancel, 9's cancel, x. So we get 2/9 over here. Now this time there was no canceling, so we're stuck multiplying across. 5 times 2 is 10, 1 times 9 is 9, 10/9, perfectly good answer. If you really feel the need, make it 1 1/9. If you don't, I really wouldn't bother to make it a decimal, but 10/9 is a simplified fraction. It's fine. By the way, that's a repeating decimal. It's 1.1 repeating. Okay, so how do you convert Fahrenheit temperatures to Celsius? Well, this is one way. So this is the formula. You don't have to memorize it. It'll be on the test, but you have to know how to manipulate it. So it turns out that 9/5 times whatever the Celsius temperature is plus 32 degrees equals the Fahrenheit temperature. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the Fahrenheit temperature. In this case, it's 50. You put it right where F for Fahrenheit is. And then you solve that two-step equation to figure out what 50 degrees Fahrenheit is in Celsius, right? In America, we use Fahrenheit. Pretty much the rest of the world uses Celsius. So we're subtracting 32 from both sides. 9/5 C, we borrow here, and we get 9/5 C equals 18, right? How do you get rid of 9/5? Multiply by the reciprocal, known as 5/9. Both sides, that's 18, not 1.8. Let's clean that up. That looks a little sloppy. And so we're going to multiply both sides by 5/9. There's some nice canceling there. 9 goes into 9 1. 9 goes into 18 twice. 2 times 5. So when it's 50 degrees outside in America, the rest of the world would say that same feeling of temperature is 10 degrees Celsius. Right, so 68 degrees, that's a typical temperature for inside a room or inside a house. And so let's see what that is in the rest of the world. So we subtract 32 from both sides. 9/5 C equals that's 6, 36. We're going to multiply both sides by 5/9. Once again, there's that canceling I've told you about. 39 goes into 36 4 times. So typically inside a house, where we'd say inside it's a nice 68 degrees Fahrenheit, the rest of the world would say that's 20 degrees Celsius. Okay, so let's put some negative fractions in these and see what happens. So we subtract 5 from both sides, and we get negative 1/4 x equals 2. All right, so the reciprocal of negative 1/4 is negative 4. I'm going to write it as negative 4 over 1, just to emphasize that. The two negatives make a positive, so both of those negatives cancel out. Those cancel out, you get x. So it's 2 times negative 4, which is negative 8. Okay, so typically that's where textbooks will write the negative sign. But let's see what happens if you write the negative sign somewhere else. Let's see that. Okay, so I wrote it up there. Now, when you see negative 2/7 like that, that is the same as negative 2/7 with it in front. So they're the same thing. So do not get crazy about that. If we ever have a negative down in the denominator, no one leaves it there. You either put it in the front or you can put it up top, right? But all of those are equal to each other. All right, so let's see how this affects this problem. So we add 6 to both sides. Negative 16 plus 6 is negative 10. So this is, I'm going to leave a little room here. So this is negative 2/7. Negative 2 divided by 7 is negative 2/7. So to get rid of negative 2/7, I multiply by the reciprocal, which is negative 7/2. Okay. Those all cancel, you get x. All right, if you want to put a 1 over there, you can. 2 goes into negative 10, negative 5 times. So it's negative 7 times negative 5, 35 equals x. All right, let's practice. Add 6 to both sides. 1/3 x equals 11. Multiply both sides by 3. And x equals 33. Subtract 7 from both sides. 3 minus 7 is 4. And 4 equals 1/2 x. Multiply both sides by 2. And 8 equals x. Here. For this, you're going to subtract 2 from both sides. 2/5 x equals 1. Multiply both sides by 5/2. Those cancel. X equals 1 times 5/2. 5/2. -5, so you add 5 to both sides. -3 equals 2/3 x. Reciprocal of 2/3, 3/2. You cannot cancel here, right? Those 3's are side by side. So it's 3 times -3, -9/2, also known as -9/2. That's simplified, so it's fine. Here you subtract 7 from both sides. -1/4 x. 2 minus 7 is the same as 2 plus -7, -5. Multiply both sides by the reciprocal, which is -4. And yeah, x equals -5 times -4, +20. Right, so this is a +4. You subtract 4 from both sides, right? It has nothing to do with that minus sign. That minus sign goes with the -1/2. That was 4 minus 1/2 x, which turns into -1/2 x. So we're subtracting 4 from both sides. -28 equals -1/2 x. Multiplied by the reciprocal, which is -2. Both sides by -2, and so 2 times 28 is +56, because -28 times -2. And, right, so 9/5 c plus 32 equals 104, right? 104 is hot. And subtract 32, so we consider anything over 100 really hot, all right? And let's see what the rest of the world thinks. Multiply both sides by 5/9. And the rest of the world thinks 40 degrees is hot, right? That's the same temperature as 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Good luck on the homework.